Shalom, all praises, blessings, glory, and honors to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to my elder apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone, who have taught me this truth, as well of men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy, to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, the Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Ratazah. This lesson is edifying. Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 3. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 26. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet, but the law shall perish from the priest, and counsel from the ancients. The latest in the news. Uploaded by Off-Grid Desert, Farming with Paul and Adrienne. Anthony Blinken says it is a great opportunity for the U.S. now that the Nord Stream 2 was blown up. In other news, headlines in the AP, Europe faces unprecedented risks of gas shortage, IEA says.
Ultimately, this is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity to once and for all remove the dependence on Russian energy, and thus to take away from Vladimir Putin the weaponization of energy as a means of advancing his imperial designs. That's very significant, and that offers tremendous strategic opportunity for the years to come. But meanwhile, we're determined to do everything we possibly can to make sure that the consequences of all of this are not borne by citizens in our countries, or for that matter, around the world.
Why is this considered a great opportunity for the U.S. now that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline is damaged? Because the U.S. will stand to benefit from its own allies paying far much more for their natural gas than what they had originally been paying to Russia at a far lower price. So it stands to reason that the culprit behind the Nord Stream pipelines getting destroyed is obvious. Go figure. Just so that they won't take down this lesson. Again, this is from the AP. Europe faces unprecedented risks to its natural gas supplies this winter after Russia cut off most pipeline shipments. And not just because Russia had cut off most pipeline shipments, but because now the Nord Stream pipelines are damaged. Now Europe will have to look elsewhere, for the very most part, for their gas, which they had been depending upon Russia for 45% of prior to the current global circumstance between Russia, NATO and the Ukraine. Now Europe will have to turn to countries such as the US, and really to the US, and they'll have to pay far more than what they had originally been paying to Russia. Nonetheless, when Europe finds out that the whore was and is the one responsible for the damaging of the pipelines, and not just the damaging of the pipelines, but the consequences that will follow, in that it will only hurt its own allies will begin to hate her. According to Revelation, the 17th chapter, the beast shall hate the whore, and shall eat her flesh and burn her. And we're going to, Lord's willing, get that. Reading on, it says, and could wind up competing with Asia for already scarce and expensive liquid gas that comes by ship by International Energy Agency said. Now, obviously, something that is scarce in quantity will be very expensive. And so that is what Europe will have to compete with. The Paris-based IEA said in its quarterly gas report released Monday that European Union countries would need to reduce use by 10% over the winter in case of a complete Russian cutoff amid the war in Ukraine. Because remember, why would Russian state energy giant Gazprom destroy their own pipeline, which they invested billions into developing? And not just them, but also Germany and various other European countries that benefit and had benefited from the utilization of the Nord Stream pipelines. Think about it. Much of that cutback would have to come from consumer behavior such as turning down thermostats by 1 degree and adjusting boiler temperatures, as well as industrial and utility conservation, the group said. The EU on Friday agreed to mandate a reduction in electricity consumption by at least 5%, excuse me. I was going to say 5,000, but I actually meant to say 5%, during peak price hours. Just a trickle of Russian gas is still arriving in pipelines through Ukraine to Slovakia and across the Black Sea through Turkey to Bulgaria. Two other routes under the Baltic Sea to Germany and to Belarus and Poland have shut down. Another hazard in the study was a late winter cold snap, which would be particularly challenging because underground gas reserves flow more slowly at the end of the season due to less gas and lower pressure in the storage caverns. The EU has already filled storage to 88% ahead of its goal of 80% before winter. The IEA assumed 90% would be needed in its Russian cutoff scenario, which will only be short-lived. Businesses in Europe have already cut back natural gas use, sometimes simply by abandoning energy-intensive activity such as making steel and fertilizers, which is a telltale sign that a lot of the people that work in those types / sorts of industries will get laid off and lose their jobs, which will only be a negative effect. It says, such as making steel and fertilizer, while smaller businesses like bakers are feeling a severe crimp in their course. High prices for gas, which is used for heating homes, generating electricity, and a host of industrial processes, are feeding through the record consumer inflation of 10% in the 19 EU member countries that use the euro, and sapping so much consumer purchasing power that economists predicted a recession at the end of this year and the beginning of next. Also, we have to remember that the dollar is still the leading global reserve currency, and many nations can't afford to buy natural resources and make certain payments using the dollar, so they have to turn to different alternatives. So the European Union will, in fact, pay far more, especially with a strong dollar, to the U.S. for its natural gas, because the U.S. is one of the largest producers of natural gas in the world, alongside Russia, Saudi Arabia, and various other countries. So America's allies, Babylon the Great's allies, will begin to hate her. Refer to Obadiah verse 7, if I am not mistaken. The Lord's willing, we'll read that as well. European governments and utilities have made up much of the Russian shortfall by purchasing expensive supplies of liquefied natural gas, or LNG, that comes by ship from countries such as the US and Qatar, by obtaining increased pipeline supply from Norway and Azerbaijan. The goal is to prevent storage levels from falling so far that governments must ration gas to businesses. Gas storage must remain above 33% for a secure winter, according to the IEA, while levels below that risk shortages if there's a late cold snap. Lower levels also would make it harder for Europe to refill storage next summer, while higher reserves from conservation would help lower extremely high prices. European leaders say the cutback in Russian gas is energy blackmail amid pressuring governments over their support for Ukraine and sanctions against Moscow. But wait till they find out who who had damaged those pipelines. Since Russia halted flows this month through the Nord Stream 1 pipeline running under the Baltic Sea to Germany, it and the parallel Nord Stream 2, built but never operated after Germany refused to certify it, were damaged in underwater explosions that European governments say are sabotage. Demand for liquefied gas has given up prices and tightened supply to the extent that poorer countries in Asia cannot afford it. Bangladesh is experiencing widespread power blackouts, while Pakistan faces rolling blackouts and has introduced reduced working hours for shops and factories to save electricity. Interregional competition for LNG procurements may create further tension, as additional European needs would put more pressure on other buyers, especially in Asia. And because remember, Europe is competing against Asia, and they will not hesitate to do whatever it takes to ration and to get their hands on more supplies. And conversely, cold spells in Northeast Asia will limit Europe's access to LNG, the agency said. The gas crisis in Europe has also deprived Asian countries of the limited number of floating regasification terminals, which were expected to play a major role in LNG imports in Southeast Asia. Europe has secured 12 of the vessels and plans another 9. So basically, they're only being more concerned about themselves, and they're cutting Asia off. Now let's go to the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, the 16th verse, and the 10 horns represents the EU. which thou sawest upon the beast. The beast represents NATO. Remember, the beast is the pagan Roman Empire, which came back in the form of NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire. But upon that beast that has 7 heads, it also has 10 horns, which the 10 horns again represents the EU, which thou sawest upon the beast, which is NATO. These shall hate the whore. Who is the whore? The whore is the one that rideth upon the beast. The whore is America, Babylon the Great. And shall make her desolate. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. And shall make her desolate. How? By way of thermonuclear fire. And naked. And shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So that's what's going to happen to America, Babylon the Great, and her allies turn upon her. They're going to eat her flesh and burn her with fire. That is a metaphor for how they're going to destroy her by way of thermonuclear fire. This is the book of Obadiah, verse 7. All the men of that confederacy, meaning that all of our allies, all right, con means with, and federacy means league or agreement. As a matter of fact, just for edification, let's look up the word confederacy. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll look at the NLT for Obadiah. The 7th chapter, Lord's willing. Now, the word confederacy means a group of people, countries, organizations, etc. joined together for a common purpose or by a common interest. Alliance, league, with alliance. A group of people working together for unlawful purposes, conspiracy. So the word confederacy just basically means with alliance or with league. So America's allies are in league with her. They're in alliance with her. Have brought thee even to the border. What border? Joel, the 3rd chapter, tells us that this border is the valley of Jehoshaphat, which in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shaphat, which means Yahweh's judgment, which is located in the Arabian Peninsula in the Middle East. The men that were at peace with thee, and currently America's allies are with peace with her, right? Have deceived thee. Why? Because eventually they're going to begin to hate her, and then they're going to destroy her by way of thermonuclear fire. And during the 3rd world's woe, and prevailed against thee, they that eat thy bread, through all the traffic, all the trade that they do with America, Babylon the Great, have laid a wound under thee, and that they are going to eventually break their treaty, break their covenant with America, and destroy her. There is none understanding in him. Why? Because Esau, Edom, does not fear Yahweh. In fact, he sees himself as being like the Most High, which is his pride, man. Now, let's take a look at this in the NLT and conclude the lesson. Pardon me. Obadiah, verse 7 in the NLT. All the men you have made in agreement with will drive you from the country. The men at peace with you will lie to you and get power over you. Those who eat your bread will set a trap for you, but you will not know it. And that's what's going to happen to Esau, Edom. Now in the GNT, and matter of fact, we'll also check the CSV. Not CSB, I'm sorry. GNT. It reads this: your allies have deceived you. They have driven you from your country. People who were at peace with you have not conquered you. Those friends who ate with you have laid a trap for you. They say of you, where is all the cleverness he had? Oh man, Esau, you're through, nigga. So all these things are coming for Esau, Edom. Again, this is Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. So all those that will attempt to seek peace during the times of destruction which cometh, they will be overtaken by the destruction. Especially when they're going to be promised peace and safety. That's when sudden destruction is going to come upon them. So destruction is going to come upon them suddenly when they're going to be in a state of, peace, so called, And they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. So there's not going to be any peace. Mischief shall come upon mischief, bad news upon bad news. And rumor shall be upon rumor, more bad news upon more bad news. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet. So they're going to seek out the men of the Lord, but they're not going to be able to find us, beginning with our head apostles and bishop elders, older brothers on down to us younger men, and also to men that teach the same doctrine as we do here at Great Millstone, that are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. Okay, then shall they seek a vision of the prophet, but the law shall perish from the priests and the counsel from the ancients, and the doctrine that we preach is the doctrine of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay, so with that, I'll conclude this lesson. Lord's willing, it is edifying to the elect. This has been another In the News. To the elect, I say Shalom, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rachak Kodash. Barakatam to the elect.